Hey everyone, welcome to Aberdeen Spotlight Series, where we explore research findings in the context of real-world technology and business decisions. Each episode will highlight a specific technology or business process, talk about what it is and why it matters, and as with all of Aberdeen research, we'll explore the outcomes and results that companies are seeing. So today's episode continues with our first quarter theme, looking at the current state of business technology. And today we're shining the spotlight on customer experience, or CX. So before we introduce our guest, I want to say a quick hello to our producer and member of the Great Name Club, Ophelia Battle. Ophelia, how are you?
I'm great. I'm happy to be here and to get into some customer experience data with you guys.
Awesome. Well, great to have you as always. Ophelia, quick question for you. Have you ever had a particularly good or a particularly bad experience with a company through its technology?
Yes. I would be remiss if I'd be a liar also, actually, if I said that I hadn't had any bad experiences. But recently, I was just going to pay a bill and I called to check in with my account, and I was speaking to a person immediately, and then I was transferred to a robot AI, however, technology. I was transferred to technology, and the experience went from okay to bad to worse. And we didn't get anything accomplished because they started asking me for things that I was inputting through the process that they were asking me to put it in, whether it be audibly or via text, and nothing was coming back correctly. And so, yeah, I was just very frustrated with that and had to go through other rounds of service to get that transaction completed.
Nice. Well, that sounds like there's a lot wrapped up in there. There's sort of like a customer data aspect to that. There's a contact center. Sounds like there's some chat bots thrown in there. So it's sort of like a holistic fail of customer experience through the technology. And for better or worse, your perception of that company is now, you see that company through the lens of that customer experience. And this is what this episode is about. So, as before we get into the quick intro here, we as before when we did our last episode, we encourage folks joining along to ask questions, or those watching the video to ask questions that they might have about CX and tech. And we want to tap into your collective knowledge and opinion, frankly. So for those that are generous enough with their time to make it to the end of the episode, we'd love for you to weigh in on a very important poll question, one that is non sequitur, not related to the topic of the episode. I won't give it away, but I promise it doesn't involve Taylor Swift or Travis Kelce. It might involve Jake Gyllenhaal, though. But anyway, back to the episode for today. I spoke with Omer Minkara, Aberdeen's top analyst covering customer experience, customer experience technology, which spans just about every technology that touches the customer, from CRM, customer data management, contact center, marketing automation. It's a really big world, a lot of tech in the CX space. And I'm excited to share the episode today. Omer and I had a great conversation. We got into the topic of AI and customer experience. We talked about some measurable outcomes that companies are seeing through top-notch CX, and all around just a really good dialogue, and I'm excited to share. So please enjoy, and we'll see you at the tail end for some final thoughts. Okay, so we are here with Omer Minkara, Aberdeen's top analyst covering customer experience and contact center. Omer, good to see you. How are you?
Doing great. Thanks, Mike. And thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here today.
Yeah, absolutely. Love the jacket and the tie, looking sharp. Looking forward to the conversation today. So refresh my memory. You've been actively covering the CX space now for 15 years, almost 15 years. Is that right? What do you?
It has to be.
Time flies indeed. What do you find most compelling about about CX, about customer experience, that particular intersection of business and tech?
Well, several things. Number one, it's a space that we all live day to day as consumers. So it's not just an interesting area to research, but it's an area that we all live in day to day. So, we have the benefit of researching what's happening 5, 10 years down the line for consumers, for businesses, and really influence that. So that's number one. The other part of it is when you look at the research, oftentimes you'll see business leaders, companies of all sizes tell us they're turning to technology to be able to solve their problems or to plan and execute strategies for tomorrow. So you'll often get a sense of what exactly our company is trying to accomplish, and also how do they align that priority from a priority perspective with their tech investments.
Yeah. I was thinking about our conversation today, and I started to think about the customer experience and technology and how those sort of combine. And it started to dawn on me the amount of the number of different interactions that a customer has with a particular company and how intermingled they are with technology. I mean, like it's literally everything from communications to automation to recommendation engines to support systems in place, all of that. And things come to my mind when I think about the customer, like me as a customer, as I'm interacting with other companies. And just as a quick anecdote, we all get 1,000 junk garbage emails on a regular basis, right? And just the other day, I mean, not that this is the only time this has ever happened, but I got an email, and first of all, the email was about something completely irrelevant to me. It was like a dialysis machine or something. They were trying to sell me like a dialysis machine. It was, first of all, it was great. Thanks for foreshadowing some medical issue that I'm going to have down the road that I don't already have. But the email was addressed to my last name, and my last name in all capital letters, as though they were like screaming at me. It was like, "Dear Locke," right? And I went through and I was sort of like counting all of the different ways that this was horribly aligned to me. And I was thinking to myself that, aside from the mechanisms that they're using here, something has gone horribly wrong with their customer data management, that this is what I'm seeing. This is my interaction with this company. And that's just customer data. That's just one example of how the technology environment influences my perception of a company that I'm going to do business with, that I'm going to potentially give money to. So it's everywhere. Everything that, like, every experience that a customer has with an organization is inextricably linked to the technology systems that company has in place and how well they use those. So that's my sort of take on it, and I'm excited for the conversation today, because you've got experience and you've got perspective, but we've also got a lot of data, a lot of fact-based research that you've done. And I know that you just closed out a study, like a pretty meaty study, looking at CX leaders and customer technology. Can you give us a little bit of an overview of that study?
Absolutely. And to your point, before I kind of touch on the study, like you said, CX really is everywhere, and it's so powerful today when you look at customer data combined with AI and analytics, all the things that we'll likely touch on today during the course of our conversation. That it's really exciting times to be a CX and tech and business leader. But going back to the study, we try to get a good pulse of the market overall for tech leaders and business leaders as far as what they're doing for their CX programs today, what they're planning to do tomorrow to achieve their goals. So in that light, we recently wrapped up a survey. That was a survey that included 610 businesses. It was a global study, so we had responses from all around the globe, companies of different sizes. We had smaller, mid-sized, and large businesses. And also it was cross-industry, so we could look at all industries as well as industries specifically. So, we're slicing and dicing the data by looking at company sizes and headcount. There's some interesting higher level takeaways as well as industry specific findings. But that's a little bit about the survey itself. Again, it's a 600 plus respondent survey global and far-reaching, but also very much in depth. And I think our audience will really see the depth of the survey as we go through the conversation today.
Yeah, great. You alluded to a bunch of different things there. You talked about sort of AI and automation and things that I think we'll probably touch on in this conversation. But let's talk about, you and I talked that we wanted to title this episode Becoming Future Ready, right? So as it relates to, like, I can think about what that means in my mind, and there's a lot of things rattling around in there, but as it relates to customer tech, are you talking, when you talk about future ready, are you talking about as it relates to, increased customer expectations around the technology experience that they have? Like I talked about, the email example that I had. My expectations are way above what this presented to me. So is that an issue that you're seeing? And is future ready all about being able to sort of live up to those customer expectations? You talking about regulatory requirements coming down the road? What does it actually mean to be future ready?
Yeah. Well, first of all, great, but also very loaded question. So let's unpack a little bit. Right. So when we talk about future ready, at a very simple level, it really refers to companies understanding what's going to happen in the future, what their customers expect today, and what they're about to expect a couple months down the line, a couple years down the line. Again, really having that crystal ball, so to speak, making predictions, making forecasts, looking at historical and real-time data to react. That's one way to define future ready. Another way is really also being mindful of what's happening in the broader business landscape. As we've learned, since the pandemic, I know it's been a really over-covered and highly, touched on topic, but the business dynamics have been shifting. Back in the day, when I talk about back in the day, pre-2020, typical business plans used to be 5+ years. That used to be a midterm plan. 10 years and over would be a long-term plan. Now, when we talk about long-term, oftentimes that's 1, maybe 2 years, because that's how far down the line business leaders are able to see. So being future ready also has to really do and understand what's happening from an economic perspective, what's happening from a geopolitical perspective, business climate, as we've seen the past couple of months, changes in interest rates all around the world has shifted customer demand, has shifted funding for businesses. So really being mindful of all of that as a CX leader to make sure I have enough of the right product, my supply chain is flowing the right way, and I also understand what my customers are expecting from me today and tomorrow, so I can fulfill all those expectations. Again, very loaded word, but hopefully that helps unpack it a little bit.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like, it's interesting to talk about future ready as the next 1 to 2 years, and like it sounds silly, but it's also kind of true, because it's you look at 2 years ago, it's almost indistinguishable from the business environment that we have today. The fluctuations, the growth in technology. We'll touch on AI in a moment here, but what are the top things that are on CX leaders' minds right now specifically? Like, what you have this study. What are the things that are sort of keeping them up at night?
Oh man, this is one of the really interesting insights that came out of the survey, Mike. So let's expand a little bit. So it was a multi-choice question survey, or multi-choice question that we asked about what challenges companies are seeing, what are the goals that are in their mind today. So when we dug a little bit deeper and looked at the top 5 goals, some really startling insights. Number 1 goal for business leaders today is all about cost reduction and improving efficiency. Now, that may be interesting, maybe not so surprising based on some of the trends that we've seen all over the news the past several months, or maybe the past year or two. But that is interesting to me as an analyst who covers the space for, like you said, about 15 years now, because the last time we've seen cost reduction and improving efficiency be the number 1 goal, guess when that was? That was during the heights of Great Recession, right around 2010, late 09s. That's when companies were telling us their number 1 goal for CX programs was cost reduction and improving efficiency. Since then, it's always been a part of top 5. Companies have always been cost conscious. They've been always going after efficiency, but it hasn't been ranking #1. So this year, 2024, has been the first time since the heights of Great Recession we've seen cost decrease and efficiency gains rank as #1. Having said that, a caveat: there wasn't as much of a significant gap between improving customer satisfaction as a goal and cost decrease. So what does that tell us? It tells us that companies are still mindful of creating happier customers. They still understand why they need loyal and happy customers. They're still going after that, but they're doing that in a way where they're decreasing cost and driving efficiency. A couple other things, again, when we look at the top 5 goals that came to light, was growing revenue, also being able to attract and hire and retain talents. Interestingly, we're living in the age of Gen AI, right? So different kinds of Gen AI tools available out there, and we're seeing a lot of news that employees maybe has seen their roles change. AI may be replacing certain roles. Well, guess what? The data tells us from the survey, companies are seeing even more important, the employee's role becoming even more important in managing customer interactions. Of course, the employees are being more empowered with AI tools. Some of those tasks are being, changing over time. But employees, finding the right employees, retaining them, empowering them, that also came out as one of the top 5 goals within the research.
Yep. Well, it is a sort of a sign of the times, as you said. I mean, typically you would see, for any commercial leader, you would see revenue growth and net new as the top priorities. Here they're numbers 4 and 5 on the list, if I'm reading this correctly. So cost reduction, retention of existing customers, really bubbling up to the surface now in the wake of the market volatility and the uncertainty, particularly in the tech sector of late. So that's definitely interesting. So let's talk about a little bit more about some of the research that came back. So when we think about all of Aberdeen research, the methodology that we have, as you know, we're all about connecting the dots between the usage of technology and the outcomes that creates. So sometimes those are negative outcomes. Sometimes it's more like risk mitigation, could be growth in customers, in your world, could be financial metrics, things like that. But all of Aberdeen research is geared towards making that connection between how technology creates results. So from this particular study, I know that you looked at a number of different metrics and a number of different outcomes. If I'm going to be a top company and I'm going to be future ready, what's in it for me? What do I get for that? What are the results that I can strive for based on that type of a strategy?
Yeah, well, great question. So for that, I would love our audience to kind of take a look at the screen here where we have 4 metrics. So those are the metrics that we looked at to define what it takes to be a best-in-class CX and business leader. And the reason why we picked those metrics is because those are the metrics that reflect the very success businesses are seeing in achieving the goals that we discussed earlier: reducing costs, growing revenue, creating happier customers. So, and I'm speaking to our end user organizations watching our video today, if your success or if your performance is aligned with best in class or even higher, that's great. And again, we'll dig a little bit deeper into how to maintain performance. But if it's behind, that means that maybe you have some opportunities for improvement. But on a high level, or at a very high level, what we've seen is the top 20% of those 610 businesses that we've surveyed, that we named as best in class, those are the organizations that retain more of their clients. They really excel in delighting their current customers. So those current customers keep spending with them. Then that's also verified and validated through customer satisfaction rates here, as you can see on the slide. 2 other categories here is the best-in-class organizations are also more responsive to their clients. So what does being responsive to customers mean? It means that if a customer has an inquiry through a website, responding that on time and efficiently. If a customer is calling into your contact center, again, handling their needs effectively. If it's about marketing interactions, again, being able to fulfill the promises made in marketing campaigns. So it means different things for different departments, but being responsive is critical. And then lastly, one of the key attributes is revenue growth. When you have happy customers, when you're managing your operational activities well, guess what happens? Customers are more likely to keep spending with you because you're delivering value, you're building trust with them. And that's why we're seeing those top 20%, the best-in-class organizations really achieve those phenomenal results in terms of revenue that we can see on the screen.
Yeah, definitely some aspiration-worthy results there. Certainly for best-in-class companies, and something that that's going to be top of mind for any executive leader for sure. But let's tie it back to the technology infrastructure in the IT department, because like I said before, everything it feels to me like everything is connected ultimately to the customer experience. It's either indirectly through other channels, or it's direct actual technology interface with the customer. So if we're talking about that direct impact on customer experience from the technology infrastructure, from the IT department, what do you think are the most impactful tools and technologies that can actually have a real measurable impact on some of the results that you just talked about?
Wow, great question. So this will probably not come as a surprise for our audience members, but that actually was a very good question that we asked in the survey. And again, AI came up very much at the top of the list. So when we looked at the top priorities from a investment perspective for best-in-class organizations that we defined earlier in our conversation, and compare that with their tech investment priorities with laggard organizations, there's parallels, right? So the top priorities for companies are similar, but it's about how best-in-class organizations are pursuing implementing those, how they're using them. But again, going back to which technologies, that was your question, Mike, which technologies organizations are planning to use, planning to invest in, AI is definitely very much at the top of the list. Why is that? It's not just because it's popular. That's because it's also delivering results. So when we cut our data and take a look at how are businesses that use AI comparing versus non-AI users, there's big gaps. Companies with AI are achieving better improvement in CSAT, that is customer satisfaction. They report improvements, that is decrease in cost, growth in revenue. So no wonder why a lot of businesses are turning to AI. And AI obviously is an umbrella category, Mike, as you well know, in the BI space and analytics space as well. But that also captures terms like machine learning, natural language understanding, natural language processing. So as a category, it also includes Gen AI. So that's one. Number two, you're also seeing automation paired with AI. So oftentimes companies refer to automation as AI, but those are two different related tools. So we're seeing heavy emphasis also on automation. Another area is analytics. Companies are rich in data today. Data really is the new fuel for customer interactions. But what we're able to find in our research is only about 15 to 20% of companies are satisfied with their ability to act on the data that they have. So you have about 3/4 of firms, 80% of firms struggling using existing data. So that's one of the reasons why companies are turning to analytics to be able to act on those insights paired with AI and automation. And then lastly, I also want to touch on contact center and customer service. That's becoming a key piece. Obviously, we're seeing more of those service interactions being automated, more role for AI within the service interactions. But in an age where businesses are cutting back on spend, they're trying to cut costs, they're trying to create satisfied and loyal customers, guess what's important? Customer retention. So service department, contact center is becoming even more important. It's always been important, but it's becoming ever more important today, just because companies are trying to hold on to their existing customers as opposed to lose them, because as we all know, it's a lot more costly to acquire net new customers versus keep the existing ones.
Yeah. So when we talk about AI here in this context, what are some of the applications and use cases for a typical customer focused IT department or technologist? Are we talking about applications of the other ones, like within the within the contact center, like virtual assistants and things like that, as you pointed out? Or are we talking about recommendation engines for customer purchasing habits? Are we talking about other types? What are the use cases and the top ways that AI is delivering value? Or is that a little bit farther down the road? Are we still seeing just the beginning stages of that?
So great question, and it's more so the former. So companies are actually making quick headways with implementing AI, but we're not seeing AI kind of a full brush. Let's implement AI everywhere in the business, and let's iterate from there. Companies are more targeted, which is good news, by the way, because my recommendation to business and tech leaders always is pick an area where you can see the most immediate gains, or an area that's most challenging for your business. Implement AI, find a use case for AI, and then expand from there, having done your proof of concept. So having said that, some of the areas where we've seen AI be most widely utilized is self-service. So back to your point, Mike, virtual assistants, chatbots, very popular use case, because you're able to reduce your labor cost, you're able to keep addressing customer issues. So that's one area. Another one is customer authentication. So what that means is when a customer calls in or starts a chat session, how do I know I'm talking to Mike or Omer? So that's the other area where companies are able to take a look at your phone number, where you're calling from, your behavioral patterns. They can use voice biometrics to authenticate if it's Mike or Omer that I'm speaking to as a business. So I can really make the whole experience seamless while building customer trust. Some of the other areas include process automation. So there's a lot of processes both in the back end, like billing, like task management, as well as the front end with marketing campaigns and customer service and sales that companies are trying to automate. So process automation is another one. And then back to your point, Mike, employees. So as I mentioned, employees' role is becoming ever more important today in the age of AI. So companies are trying to empower their employees with real-time information, with real-time guidance. And again, there's additional use cases, there's sales performance management, there's personalization. It really depends on what are the areas of immediate need for businesses. But the ones that I cited, as well as the ones that are on the screen, seem to be the most popular use cases that we're seeing businesses implement AI for.
Right. But it's the point that an add-on point that I would make is that AI as a technology is only impactful within the right type of environment and infrastructure in general. Like in the case that the example that I gave, or the anecdote that I gave, imagine getting on with a chatbot, the AI generated assistant, and it's calling me lock in capital letters because that's how it associates me, or it's asking me about my dialysis needs on a call about something completely different. But the other point that I would make too is that Aberdeen research, we talked about our methodology connecting the usage of technology to outcomes. A big part of our ethos as a research organization is sort of acknowledging and understanding that the technologies alone aren't what creates the outcomes. It's sort of a cocktail of the right strategies, the skill sets, internal competencies, executive ownership. All of those things play into the elevated customer experience, not just the technology, although that's a huge part of it, and that's sort of the focus of the conversation today. And I know that your research focuses on all of those areas outside of not only the technology. I think that's kind of important to know. So as we sort of wrap up here, Omer, any final thoughts or words of wisdom as we think about how to connect technology to improve customer experience?
Yeah, so one thing that I wanted to share, and I've been thinking about the future of CX. So going back to our conversation of future ready, I've been thinking a lot about the philosophical component of CX, right? So where is the market going? Not just from a tech perspective, but also best practices. What are things that CX leaders, IT, and business leaders of today and tomorrow should be mindful of? So I asked a question in the survey. Again, 600 plus organizations. The question was geared towards what's the most impactful one thing that helps your business create positive outcomes that you desire? Is it dedicated and engaged employees? Is it having the latest and greatest technology? Or is it having the most efficient processes? And, I won't let you guess, Mike, just a quick answer, just in the interest of time. The number one answer from the audience was, it was about having dedicated and engaged employees. So that's the number one area where companies are seeing the greatest differentiating asset for them to produce desired CX results. Not to say the other areas like process improvements and latest and greatest technologies are not important. They also came out pretty highly ranked. In fact, technology came out as the second top area of focus. But that goes to show you got to have an employee-centric view where you're focusing on empowering your employees who are on the phone, interacting with your customers day to day, who really understand what the customer's expectations are, so you can empower them to be able to fulfill the customer's expectations. So I guess to sum it up, the future of CX, it's automation enabled, it's AI centric, but it's also centered around supporting employees. Employees are not going away. So make sure that you care for your employees, find top performers, support them, and make sure that you understand what technologies and processes make a difference so you can enable and empower the employees with those relevant tools and processes.
Yeah, I love that. And for a second there, I thought, wait a minute, did we switch conversations to an HR conversation? Are we talking HCM now? It's a really great point, though. I mean, there's sort of that daisy chain. Investing in customers means, investing in employees means investing in customers, which means investing in the growth of the business. I mean, it's that sort of daisy chain. And I actually was not expecting that to come out of you and your data, but that's a really important one, is that you start with the internal core competencies of the team and employee happiness and employee skill sets and employee technology competencies, and all of those things contribute to an elevated customer experience, and then come back to the company in the form of growth and revenue. So I think that's a great message to end on. Omer, thanks so much for joining. Some great research here, some great insights. For those watching, feel free to check back after this video is posted. We will definitely be doing some mechanism around Q&A that we want to address some of your questions and comments around this, and definitely look for more great research and other content from Omer and the Spiceworks and Aberdeen teams in the coming days and weeks. Thanks so much for watching. Okay, we're back here to wrap up with some final thoughts. I thought Omer's main takeaway here was a really good one, that customer experience is ultimately driven by employee experience. So again, you take care of your employees, you can then take better care of your customers. I think it's a really good overall message. So as I mentioned before, we want to hear people's questions about CX, but I also want to ask people's opinions on something. So Ophelia, as a background on this, the other day I saw an ad for a new movie. And this movie was the reboot of the 1989 classic movie Roadhouse. The original movie starring Patrick Swayze, this one starring Jake Gyllenhaal, and it got me thinking. Maybe it was this ad that I saw, or maybe the fact that the Oscars were not too long ago. But I want this poll question to be movie related. So the question is, what is the greatest bad movie of all time? Something that you know is inherently bad or cheesy, but it's a guilty pleasure and you get a lot of enjoyment out of it. Greatest bad movie of all time. I won't get into all the details, but in the interest of time, spoiler alert, my pick is Roadhouse. So Ophelia, I'll throw it over to you. Where do you stand on this? What's your pick?
Okay, I'm glad you said guilty pleasure, because for me, it's Men in Black, because I love that movie, and I'm not sure that it's not completely corny, but it is possibly a great bad movie.
Nice.
I am 100% behind that movie. I could quote it, to be honest. Yeah, okay, so with that, I think we'll go ahead and wrap things up here. Thank you for watching and joining in this discussion. I appreciate all of the data and the insights that have been shared here by Mike and Omer. if you want to follow up with us and submit your questions, we will get to as many as we can in the community. And you've also got the opportunity to submit your vote for the best bad movie there as well. So we will get to you with all of that insight and go back and forth a little bit. Maybe a little tussle on who has the best or the worst opinions there. But I wanted to say thank you for watching and stay safe and keep it spicy. Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.